Shall we move on to a Super Showdown, Mr. Zontal?
I think we shall. Considering we pushed it back from last week.
We did. We had such a jam-packed
We
week
did.
last week, and we thought this battle deserved our full attention.
We did.
So this is our Marvel semi-final.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh.
Ooh.
It is Ghost Rider representing the Marvel heroes versus Ultron representing the Marvel villains. It's an interesting one. They're very different characters with very different power sets. And I seem to remember last week, Mr. Zontal, you had done some research.
I had, and I've just had to go find my notes from last week to remind myself. So I looked up some things more so about, because for one, we know Ultron is made from vibranium on the outside.
Yes.
So we already know that's a pretty difficult thing, an alloy metal to damage. Pretty indestructible from most things. And with Ghost Rider not really having any form of weapon that clearly would damage that, kind of poses some interesting tactics that might have to be kind of used. Because I looked up some different things, put some different people's thoughts to try and get other perspectives. And obviously, Ghost Rider has his pen and stare, but I don't
Which
feel
has
like
got him as far as it has.
it has. But I don't feel like that would now work on Ultron.
I would be inclined to agree. I would
with him
argue
being
that
an
Ultron does not have a soul.
Yeah, and I don't think the anything that has been used to power him up, like there's nothing magical enough going on there to give him some sort of a soul. So I don't feel like pen and stare would work.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Ghost Rider's chain's not really going to do damage, so it kind of left one suggestion, which was Ultron has been beaten in the past, not by his external being damaged, but damaging him enough so his internal components break, because they're just electrical components.
Mm-hmm.
And if they break, then at the end of the day, he's a robot and he won't function. Ghost Rider has Hellfire.
Yes.
Now, my thought process was, can Hellfire heat Ultron up or do enough damage to cause damage to his internals and beat him that way?
Yes, it absolutely can. The question would be, do we view Ultron as just one Ultron bot? And do we view Ghost Rider as winning for simply destroying that Ultron bot when the AI can escape to a server?
So I think we do view this fight as just him versus one Ultron.
Okay.
It can be the prime Ultron or like the number one that he uses. I think him being defeated by being sent back to the server or whatever is just the same as like when Hulk gets beaten, but technically like he's just can't fight anymore, or this what we had with Wolverine, like if he's just broken to the point where he can't fight, but he's not dead.
An Ultron retreat is an Ultron loss.
Yes, I think if he can't use that structure anymore and he has to retreat into through the internet or whatever into his server, that is classed as a defeat in that fight. Because here's the thing, Ghost Rider's, I don't see how Ultron kills Ghost Rider.
It's an interesting one. But if we're saying a retreat for Ultron is a loss, a retreat for Ghost Rider will be a loss as well.
True. I wonder. I kind of feel like this goes one or two ways. You either have Hellfire can do damage and damages internals and beats him that way, or it's kind of a stalemate, which then poses an interesting scenario.
So I think Ultron can cause Ghost Rider a lot of pain. And I think you can exhaust him. Granted, I'm not too up to date with my Ghost Rider, but I know in the film he was only really active at night. Ghost Rider, Rider form, max time. How long can he stay in Ghost Rider form? Jonathan Blaze.
Can perform all night.
Weaknesses.
Da-da-da-dun-da-da.
Corruption, a very dangerous side effect of using damnation stare on demonic entities, is that they're moral banks, but not demonic, doesn't matter. Heavenly weapons, doesn't matter. Host separation. No killing with a heavenly weapon is one way. Another way to defeat the Ghost Rider is to separate the spirit from the host. This makes the host return to be mortal, but the spirit will remain in its current state until it finds a new body to inhabit.
Which is essentially the same as causing Ultron to go back to his server.
What do we think's easier? Do we think it is easier for Ghost Rider to get Ultron to retreat to a server? Or do we think it's easier for Ultron to force him out of Ghost Rider form?
This is where I feel like we get to a bit of a 50-50 stalemate scenario.
I'll be honest, I came into this thinking Ultron was curb stomping him, but you raised some really interesting points. And I'm actually leaning more of like a 55, maybe even 60 in favor of Ghost Rider.
Yeah, I would say I feel there's a higher chance of Ghost Rider doing damage enough to Ultron first than there is to Ghost Rider being separated from his host. Because in the case of like
a reminder of the Hellfire is a big tipping point in my opinion.
Because that's like, I saw one thing, someone mentioned it, and someone was like, oh, well, Hellfire is not going to do anything to Vibranium. But at the end of the day, you don't need to do anything to Vibranium.
Yeah,
like,
melt
you could have
inside.
Yeah, you could
raw have Vibranium.
Exactly. You just have to do enough damage that he can't function anymore. And then he's going to retreat.
And also, we've got to remember, Vibranium has been molded. It's got to have a melting point.
It has been alloyed. I don't know if Hellfire is... Because hasn't Ultron been through a star or something?
According to the official handbook of the Marvel Universe, Vibranium melts at 5,475 degrees Fahrenheit. What's that in real temperature? 1,475 degrees.
What's that in European degrees? Not freedom degrees.
In real degrees. In actual things that matter. 475 in Celsius. 3,000 degrees Celsius.
It's pretty hot.
I feel like that's not that hot though. 3,000 Celsius fire. What would that be look like? How fast? No. What is temperature of fire?
Well, here's something to put it in perspective. The sun is 5,700. Wait, no, that's not degrees C. That's Kelvin. Oh no, 5,500.
A Bunsen burner can reach 1,500. A propane torch can reach nearly 2,000. There's no way Hellfire isn't reaching 3,000.
How hot is... Well, the thing is, it's like, Hellfire is magical fire. So I don't know if it has like a...
That's 717 Kelvin.
That's what Hellfire is?
Yes, what's 717 Kelvin?
I don't think that's hot enough then.
443, okay, you can't melt him. Ooh, we flip back and forth.
But then that's the thing, like, that's still going to be hot enough
to start damaging stuff inside.
Well, I think it can. Because we also got to remember...
Marvel Hellfire, 1 second.
Ultron is not a solid piece of vibranium. There are crack openings and joint openings. Like, he does enough damage to like a shoulder, boom, can't use an arm. Do enough to like internal like hip, boom, legs out of action. Like he could break him down from the inside out. I think that's like I just feel like that happens because you gotta remember as well, being bloodlusted, Ghost Rider is not gonna is gonna do everything to keep that mortal for like connected. Like he is that's gonna be the last thing he is like you're gonna have to really like beat him down to rip him off from his mortal.
Yeah.
So I do think it tips ever so slightly in Ghost Rider's favor.
I do think it does. So I think we're although I didn't expect it, I think Ghost I genuinely didn't. I know I try not to think too far in ahead, advance these because I have strong opinions if I do that. But you've convinced me. I do think you're right. I think Ghost Rider can take
in a wild situation and probably a first for the podcast. I have convinced the comic nerd with my internet research skills.
Yeah, no. Google is always your best friend. So it's up to you, viewer. Get in the comments. Tell us why we're wrong. Tell me why Hori manipulated and lied to me and how Ultrons actually should win. But as it stands, Ghost Rider's made it to the final. Good always beats evil. So will he be facing Swamp Thing or Ra's al Ghul in the final? Is the real question.
It's going to be interesting.
Yeah. I don't know. The Ghost Rider versus the Demon's Head sounds like an interesting final to me.
It does.
Maybe that's the final we get. Maybe it's not. We'll see.